Florida still has real farmhouses sitting on real acreage for less than $200,000. Some go a lot lower than that, not the burned out roof caving kind that needs a demolition crew. These are actual homes on actual land that people could realistically move into this month. Every single one is a listing. I pulled myself and checked against more than one source before it made this list. Today, 6 of them, statewide, running from the Panhandle down into Central Florida, every single one under $250,000, and every single one with land attached. Florida's a big place, bigger than people scrolling from up north tend to picture, and affordable land with a real house on it turns up in more than one corner of it. For each property, I'm going to show you exactly what you're getting, what it actually costs once you add up the land and the taxes and not just the sticker price, and why a house like this hasn't sold yet. Because there's always a reason, and it's rarely the reason you'd guess sitting at home scrolling through photos on your phone. Sometimes it's the market, sometimes it's the paperwork, sometimes, like you're about to see, the listing itself doesn't even agree with itself on whether the house is still available. Stick around for the one out in Hardee County. If you're new here, hit subscribe. I put these together every week. One more thing before we start, none of these 6 are waterfront, none of them are in a gated community, and none of them come with a pool. That's on purpose. This video is about what a fixed income can actually still buy in this state right now, not the highlight reel version of Florida retirement that most of the internet is selling you. Let's get into it. Here are 6 affordable Florida farmhouses retirees can actually move into, no fixer-uppers. Lamont, Florida. Priced at $128,903. That's an all-brick 3-bedroom 2-bath house on a full acre in Jefferson County, out in Florida's Big Bend, a part of the state most people driving I-10 blow straight past on their way to Tallahassee or Jacksonville. When I pulled up the listing photos on this one, the brick is what got me first. 2,050 square feet, high ceilings running through the main living space, so it lives bigger than the number on paper suggests. Brick construction matters more than people give it credit for out here, because it means you're skipping a lot of the maintenance headaches that come with the manufactured and older wood frame places you're going to see later on this list. No siding to replace every decade, no wood rot creeping in at the corners where the humidity gets to it first, just a solid shell that was built to outlast whoever's living in it, the way houses used to get built before speed became the priority over everything else. An acre of land in Jefferson County is real elbow room, and honestly that's the part I keep coming back to on this one. Space for a garden if that's part of the plan, room for a few chickens if that's your particular retirement fantasy, or just enough distance between you and the next house that you're not hearing somebody's dog going off at 6 in the morning. Jefferson County is also known for its canopy roads, old oak-lined roads that arch clean over the pavement, some of them a century or more old. A handful of them are protected by county ordinance, specifically so nobody can cut the trees down. Lamont itself is genuinely rural, small enough that it barely registers on a map, but it sits closer to Tallahassee than most people realize. A real city with real hospitals and real grocery stores within a reasonable drive without living in the middle of the traffic every day. The regional hospital system out here is Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, which also runs the emergency room down in Perry, so healthcare access in this corner of the Big Bend is better connected than the empty space on the map might suggest. Here's my read on why a solid brick house on a full acre is still sitting on the market instead of getting snapped up within a week. Rural land in a thin market like this one just doesn't move the way property does closer to the coast. There aren't a ton of buyers actively typing Jefferson County, Florida into a search bar the way they're typing in Naples or Sarasota or anywhere along the I-4 corridor, where every listing gets a dozen showings in the first weekend. Less competition for a listing like this means more room for you to actually negotiate instead of getting dragged into a bidding war over a house that isn't even move-in ready in the first place. It also means property taxes out here tend to stay lower year over year, since the county assessor isn't chasing runaway comparable sales the way coastal counties are. This is the property on today's list I'd point a first-time buyer toward if they wanted the least amount of guesswork. Brick confirmed active, a full acre, and a price that leaves room in the budget for closing costs and a home inspection without stretching anyone thin. Worth getting an inspection anyway. No listing photo ever shows you the roof decking or the plumbing behind the wall. walls. One financing note that comes up more than once tonight: some lenders treat manufactured homes differently depending on titling, which can make them trickier to finance through a conventional mortgage than a stick-built house. Plenty of buyers finance manufactured homes every year, but it's exactly the kind of detail that thins out the buyer pool without the house itself being the problem. Next one takes us south into Central Florida, and this one comes with almost 2.5 acres attached to it. Fort White, Florida. Priced at $199,200. We're in Columbia County now, tucked between Lake City and High Springs, right in that stretch of north central Florida that's known for its springs, Ichetucknee and Ginnie Springs. That whole corridor of clear, cold, spring-fed water that draws people in from all over the state every summer, retirees included. I checked this one twice myself, and the price genuinely drifted a little between pulls, so treat it as a range, not a fixed number. This one's 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, built back in 2015. Not some ancient single wide from the 70s, but a fairly modern manufactured home. Since dangerous winds are common in Florida, homes like this get built to a real wind load code. 728 square feet, small, especially next to the last one, but it's sitting on 1.84 acres, and that's what actually matters here for anyone thinking long-term about the property instead of just the house on top of it. Ichetucknee Springs State Park, just up the road, feeds one of the most popular tubing rivers in the entire state, and it's a straight shot from this address. The park actually caps how many tubers it lets in on a given day during the busy season, which tells you something about how popular it still is even with the limit in place. I'll be upfront about this one. It's manufactured, not stick-built, so if you're picturing a classic wraparound porch farmhouse, this isn't quite that. What it is a listing I confirmed independently across 3 separate sites myself before it made this list. I looked up Fort White after finding this listing, and it's small town in the best sense of that phrase. Close to the springs, close to Lake City for anything you actually need on a day-to-day basis. Groceries, a pharmacy, an HCA Florida Lake City Hospital, a full acute care hospital with a 24-hour emergency room serving Columbia County, which for retirees is usually the first thing worth checking before falling in love with a piece of land. If your idea of a good Tuesday morning involves kayaking a spring-fed river before lunch because you're retired now and you finally can, this is exactly the kind of area that makes that possible without a 2-hour drive attached to it every time you want to do it. My guess is small manufactured homes on acreage like this get filtered out by buyers who've got their search set to a minimum square footage, or who've checked the box for single family only and never see anything outside that box, no matter how good the land underneath it is. They're skipping right past a listing like this one without ever seeing what's attached to it, which is how a solid modern property on nearly 2 acres ends up sitting here for anyone willing to look a little closer. Property taxes out here in Columbia County also tend to run well below what you'd see on a comparable piece of land closer to a major metro, since the county's tax base leans agricultural and rural rather than commercial. That's not a guarantee. Every parcel gets assessed on its own, but it's part of why the total cost of owning something like this stays low year after year, not just on the day you close. Now let's head down into Hardy County, and this next one has the wrinkle I mentioned back at the top of the video. Wauchula, Florida. Priced at $262,955, the highest on today's list. We're in Hardy County, in Wauchula, which calls itself the cucumber capital of the world, sitting about halfway between Sebring and Arcadia out in central Florida, right in the middle of some of the most agricultural land left in this part of the state, where citrus groves still outnumber subdivisions by a wide margin. I went through the listing photos on this one twice, because I honestly didn't believe the remodel at first. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, new flooring throughout, an updated kitchen, and updated bathrooms, all on 2.5 acres of agricultural land. On paper, this is genuinely move-in ready, not a project you're inheriting the day you get the keys. The Peace River runs right through this part of Hardy County, and Wauchula sits directly on it. People come from all over the state to canoe this stretch and hunt for shark teeth and fossils that wash out of the riverbank, some of them millions of years old. However, I must warn you, this listing got cross-checked against multiple sources, and they didn't agree with each other. One of them has it marked as pending, which would mean it's already under contract with somebody else, and just hasn't been pulled from every site yet. A couple of the others still show it as active, sitting right there waiting for an offer. If this one's already gone by the time this video goes up, that's simply how fast real estate moves right now on something priced this competitively. From what I found digging into Hardee County, it's agricultural through and through. Citrus country, quiet, and working class. And it's never positioned itself as a retirement destination the way the coastal counties further south have. Advent Health Wauchula sits right in town, a critical access hospital with a full emergency department, and Tampa is only about an hour up the road for anything bigger. The 2.5 acres here are zoned agricultural, which in Hardee County usually means room for citrus trees, a few animals, or just a buffer between you and the next property line. Agricultural zoned land like this rarely commands the premium it would an hour or two closer to the water, which is exactly why the land to price ratio here works in your favor if you're patient and flexible on timing. If the status does turn out to be pending when you check, don't cross Hardee County off the list entirely. This kind of price to acreage ratio isn't unique to one address out here. It's a reflection of what the whole county looks like right now, which means something comparable could easily turn up again even if this exact property doesn't make it to closing with someone else's name already on the contract. One thing to ask the listing agent directly is whether the parcel carries an agricultural exemption on its tax bill and what that exemption requires you to keep doing with the land to hold on to it. The answer changes your actual annual cost. Let's head back north for a property with real acreage attached to it and a number that's genuinely hard to believe given everything you get with it. Live Oak, Florida. Priced at $249,000. This one's in Live Oak, Suwannee County, North Central Florida, and I'll be honest, this is one of the freshest listings on today's list. Only a few days old when I pulled it, which is exactly why I want to walk you through it before somebody else grabs it. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,372 square feet, sitting on a double lot in a neighborhood called Butterfield Acres, just under 3/4 of an acre. Built in 1991, but don't let the age fool you. The AC and roof were both replaced in 2021, and the well was serviced this year, so the expensive stuff is already taken care of for whoever buys this. No HOA, no deed restrictions, which out here actually matters, since it means nobody's telling you what you can and can't do with your own land, whether that's a garden, a workshop, or just leaving the boat parked where you want it. There's a 2-car garage that doubles as a workshop and a screened Florida room off the back that works as a second living space. The kind of room you end up using more than the actual living room once the weather turns nice. The whole thing sits minutes from the Suwannee River, and I checked this one myself on its own listing page. Not a search result, not a summary pulled from somewhere else, but the actual page. Live Oak itself is the Suwannee County seat, small but real, with groceries, a pharmacy, and the everyday basics covered right in town, and Lake City close enough for anything bigger you might need. This is the kind of listing that gets buried fast on these sites, because it's priced right and it just went up, so if you're the kind of person who moves quick on a good one, this is your sign actually to pick up the phone instead of just bookmarking it. Next one's just down the road, and it comes with your own private lake frontage. Live Oak, Florida. Priced at $229,900. We're staying in Suwannee County for this one, and the headline here is The Water. This property sits right along Tiger Lake, which is the kind of detail that usually adds 50 grand to a listing price anywhere closer to the coast. It's a 2007 manufactured home, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,480 square feet on 1.1 acres, and honestly, it's one of the better kept ones I've come across doing this. Inside, the walls have that tape and texture finish instead of the flat panel look you get on a lot of older manufactured homes. Luxury vinyl flooring runs throughout, and the water filtration system is a Kinetico unit, which, if you know water systems, is not the cheap option. That's a real brand somebody paid real money for. There's also an owned security system covering the property, not a rental contract you inherit, a brand new water heater, and in the kitchen, the side-by-side fridge, the electric range, the dishwasher, and even the garbage disposal all stay, plus the washing machine. The roof's metal, replaced in 2022, so that's a decade plus before anyone has to think about it again. New gutters went up last year. Out back, there's a 12 by 30 air-conditioned storage shed, which is its own small luxury out here, an outdoor fire pit for the evenings, and a partially fenced yard with 2 gates. There's a handicap ramp built in and 2 sets of new steps besides. And I'll be straight with you, that's the kind of detail that either matters a lot to you or not at all, but it's there if you need it. One more thing worth knowing, since I always end up digging into the history on these. This exact parcel sold for $16,000 back in 2005, then $28,000 in 2007. What's standing on it now is worth 14 times that. Land like this in Suwannee County has genuinely moved. But to tell you frankly, there is a small corner of the lot that sits inside a flood zone according to the listing itself, not something I'm guessing at or burying in the fine print. Worth asking about directly when you call, but it's a small corner, not the whole parcel. I opened this one directly too, same as the last, and it's showing active listed August 6th, a couple weeks on the market as of when I checked it. Live oaks close by for anything you need day to day, and if lake mornings sound better than city mornings to you, this is the property on today's list that's genuinely built around exactly that. Last one on the list takes us out of Suwannee County entirely and into the Panhandle, Chipley, Florida. Priced at $249,900. This is Chipley out in the Panhandle, Washington County, and it's the one I'd point you to if you want a real brick house instead of manufactured, since that's genuinely rare at this price point on today's list. Built in 1975, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, 1,350 square feet, sitting on 1.1 acres, and it wears its age well. The roof is metal, went on in 2018, and the HVAC is brand new this year, so you're not walking in and immediately budgeting for the 2 most expensive systems in the house. Here's the detail that actually matters most if you're shopping for retirement specifically. The primary bedroom is on the main level, no stairs standing between you and your own bed as the years go on, which is exactly the kind of thing that gets overlooked in a listing photo and matters enormously in real life. Step inside and it's got that rustic lived-in living room feel that opens straight into an eat-in kitchen with an island, the kind of layout that keeps whoever's cooking part of the conversation instead of stuck in another room. There's a dedicated laundry room too, not a closet with a stackable unit crammed into it, an actual room for it. Then there's the bonus room, 17 by 11, with a wood-burning stove sitting in it. And that's the room I'd actually fight for if I were touring this one myself. Hideaway for an afternoon, whatever you need it to be. The listing itself talks about watching the sunrise from the covered front porch and grilling on the back deck. And reading that, you can tell whoever wrote it actually lived there and loved it, not just an agent filling in a template. Outside is where this one really earns its price. There's a 24 by 36 detached barn with electricity and water already run to it, and 2 roll-up doors big enough for real equipment, not just a mower. If you've been dreaming about a proper workshop instead of a corner of the garage, this is that. There's also an 18-foot above ground pool already set up with its own pump and filter, so cooling off doesn't require digging anything into the ground first. Same as the other 2, I pulled this one up on its own page directly. It went active August 15th, so it's brand new, and there's a bonus buried in the listing that's easy to miss. An additional adjacent 1/10 of an acre parcel conveys with the sale, so you're actually getting more ground than the acreage number alone suggests. I also pulled the sale history on this one because I wanted to see if the price made sense, and it does. This same house sold for $75,000 in 2008, $115,000 in 2017, $175,000 in 2021, and $200,000 in 2022. It's climbed every single time it's changed hands, which is usually a good sign that a place holds its value instead of just getting flipped and marked up. Chipley sits along Highway 77 and 231, so you've got easy access in more than one direction, and it's a genuinely quiet, rural stretch of the Panhandle that doesn't get talked about nearly as much as the coast an hour south of it. 6 real, currently active Florida properties, every one of them under $250,000, every one of them with land attached, and not a single one of them a total gut job pretending to be something it isn't. Every one of them also sits well outside the counties, driving Florida's insurance headlines right now. That alone is worth more to a fixed retirement budget than most of the individual features on any of these listings. A couple more are already in the pipeline for next time, and a couple of these simply took longer to confirm term properly than others. None of the 6 are on the coast, and that's the whole reason the prices look the way they do. Tell me in the comments which one of these you'd actually consider, and if there's a specific part of the state you want me to focus on next time, drop that in there too. If you've already made a move like this yourself, rural Florida or otherwise, I'd genuinely like to hear how it went and what nobody warned you about before you signed. Subscribe if this kind of thing is useful to you. I put these together every single week, statewide, with real listings behind every number you saw tonight. See you in the next one.